The Red Line changed everything. Before 1987, getting from Yishun to Raffles Place meant sitting on a sweaty bus for over an hour, watching Singapore crawl past your window. Then November 7th hit, and suddenly the same trip took 30 minutes. The North-South line wasn't just Singapore's first MRT line, it was a gamble. The government dropped $5 billion on an underground train system for an island that most people thought was too small to need one. Critics said it would be a waste of money. They said Singaporeans loved their cars too much. They were wrong. The first stretch ran from Yio Chu Kang to Toa Payoh, just 6 stations. Nothing fancy. But here's where it gets interesting. The stations were built deep underground, some as far down as 30 meters, because Singapore's soft marine clay made shallow tunneling a nightmare. Engineers had to get creative, and they did. By 1988, the line extended all the way to Marina Bay. The entire northern chunk from Yio Chu Kang to Choa Chu Kang opened in 1990, and suddenly half of Singapore was connected by rail. The numbers were staggering. Within the first year, the MRT was moving 300,000 passengers daily. By the mid-90s, that number hit 800,000. But the North-South line wasn't done. In 1996, Woodlands Extension opened, pushing the line further north. Then Marina South Pier came in 2014, giving cruise passengers a direct link to the city. And in a move that shocked nobody, Jurong Region Line interchange at Tengah is coming by 2027, because Singapore never stops building. The Green Line is where things got ambitious. While the North-South Line proved the concept worked, the East-West Line showed Singapore was ready to go all in. December 1987, same month as the Red Line's initial opening, and the East-West Line launched with a stretch from Clementi to City Hall. But this wasn't just another underground railway. The East-West Line went overground for huge sections, snaking across the island on elevated tracks that gave passengers views they'd never seen from a bus. Here's the thing. The East-West Line had to solve a problem the North-South Line didn't face. How do you connect the far east and west of Singapore without destroying half the island? The answer was brilliant and simple. Go up. Elevated viaducts kept construction costs down and made the whole project faster to build. By 1989, the line stretched from Pasir Ris all the way to Boon Lay. Suddenly, people in Tampines could reach Jurong in under 40 minutes. The travel time revolution wasn't just happening in the city center anymore. It was reaching every corner of Singapore. Then came 2001, and everything changed again. The East-West Line connected with Changi Airport. Game over for airport buses. Why sit in traffic on the PIE when you could zip from Tanah Merah to the terminals in minutes? The airport extension turned the MRT from a city transport system into a proper international gateway. But wait, there's more. In 2017, Tuas West Extension opened, pushing the line even further west. 5 new stations popped up, serving industrial areas that most Singaporeans never visit but rely on completely. Those factories and warehouses needed workers, and now those workers had a train. Purple Line dropped in 2003, and it was different from day one. The North-East Line was Singapore's first fully automated driverless MRT line. No driver's cabin, no human at the controls, just computers and sensors guiding trains through tunnels at speeds that made the older lines look slow. The tech wasn't just for show. Automated systems meant trains could run closer together, which meant more trains per hour, which meant more passengers moved faster. The North-East Line could handle 24 trains per hour at peak times. The older lines, not even close. But here's where the North-East Line really shined. It connected parts of Singapore that the red and green lines completely missed. Punggol, Sengkang, Serangoon, these weren't just stops on a map. These were entire towns that suddenly had direct access to Dhoby Ghaut and Chinatown without needing to transfer twice. The line runs from Harbourfront to Punggol, 16 stations total, and it changed how Northeast Singapore functioned. Before the Purple Line, getting from Punggol to town meant a bus to Serangoon, then another bus or the Red Line. After, straight shot in 30 minutes. And the trains themselves were an upgrade. Platform screen doors became standard, keeping people safe and stations air-conditioned. The older lines had to retrofit these later, but the North-East Line had them from the start. Yellow Line took 24 years to finish. Let that sink in. The Circle Line opened its first stage in 2009, but the final section didn't connect until 2025, almost a quarter century of construction for one line. Why so long? Because the Circle Line does something no other MRT line attempts. It loops. The entire line forms a circle around Singapore's core, connecting to almost every other MRT line along the way. It's not trying to get you from point A to point B. It's trying to get you from anywhere to everywhere. The first stage ran from Bartley to Marymount. Nothing spectacular, but it was a start. Then 2010 hit with stage 2 and 3, opening harbourfront to Bartley via Dhoby Ghaut and Serangoon. Suddenly, the yellow line was connecting to the red, green, and purple lines all at once. Stage 4 came in 2011, closing part of the loop from Serangoon to harbourfront via Marina Bay. But there was still a gap. A massive, annoying gap between Marina Bay and harbourfront that forced everyone to transfer. That gap stayed open for 14 years. People complained. Transport planners shrugged. The missing stations at Keppel and Cantonment were too expensive, too complicated, too something. Then 2025 rolled around and the gap finally closed. The full circle was complete and travel times across the island dropped again. But here's the kicker. The Circle Line has the most stations of any MRT line. 36 stops around the entire loop. It's not the fastest way to get anywhere, but it might be the most convenient. Blue Line is the overachiever. The downtown line opened in stages between 2013 and 2017, and it immediately became the longest underground line in Singapore. Every single station is underground. No elevated sections, no above-ground shortcuts. Stage 1 launched in 2013, with just 6 stations from Chinatown to Bugis, useful but limited. Then Stage 2 dropped in 2015, extending to Bukit Panjang, and adding 12 more stations. Suddenly, the Blue Line was reaching parts of Singapore that had been stuck with bus rapid transit for years. Bukit Panjang residents celebrated. They'd been riding the LRT for years, which was fine for short trips but useless for getting to town. The downtown line changed everything. One train, no transfers, straight to Bugis or Chinatown. Stage 3 came in 2017, pushing the line southeast to Expo. The Blue Line, now connected to Changi Airport via the Green Line, created new interchanges at Promenade and Bayfront, and cut travel times across the island by double digits. The Blue Line filled gaps the older lines missed. Little India, Bencoolen, Fort Canning, these areas were walking distance from other MRT stations, but just far enough to be annoying. And the trains? Bigger. The downtown line uses 3-car trains that can be expanded to 6 cars if needed. That's more passengers per train, which means fewer delays during peak hours. Brown Line is still being built, and it's already changing Singapore. The Thomson-East coastline is Singapore's 6th MRT line, and it's taking forever to finish because it's massive. Stage 1 opened in 2020 with 3 stations: Woodlands North, Woodlands, and Woodlands South. Not exactly the most exciting launch. Most Singaporeans didn't even notice. Then Stage 2 hit in 2021, and people started paying attention. 6 new stations from Springleaf to Caldecott, cutting straight through the center of Singapore. The Brown Line was suddenly connecting Thomson to the Red Line, Yellow Line, and Blue Line all at once. Stage 3 launched in 2022, extending from Caldecott to Gardens by the Bay. 5 more stations, including Stevens, which serves one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Singapore, and Marina Bay, which is basically the heart of the entire country. But here's where it gets wild. The Brown Line isn't stopping at Gardens by the Bay. Stage 4 and 5 are coming, pushing the line east through Marine Parade, Katong, Bedok, and eventually all the way to Sungai Bedok by 2025. When it's finished, the Thomson-East coastline will have 43 stations, making it the longest MRT line in Singapore by a mile. The Brown Line is also the deepest. Some stations, like Great World, are 50 meters underground because the line had to tunnel beneath existing MRT lines. That's 5 stories down. The escalators take forever. The future is green. Well, technically it's lime green, but who's counting? The Jurong region line isn't even open yet, and it's already causing a stir. Construction started in 2021 for a line that won't fully open until 2028, 7 years of work for 24 stations that will completely reshape Western Singapore. But here's what makes it different. It's not trying to connect Jurong to the city center. It's trying to connect Jurong to itself. The line loops around the west, linking Boon Lay, Jurong East, Jurong West, Tengah, and Choa Chu Kang in one continuous circle. No more riding downtown just to transfer back west. And Tengah is the big story. Singapore's newest town, still being built, with stations going in before the buildings, which is the opposite of how Singapore usually does things. The first 18 stations open in 2027, the remaining 6 in 2028. And when it's done, Western Singapore will have an entirely new way to move around. But here's what nobody's talking about. Singapore has 7 MRT lines now, or will soon, and the government is already planning an 8th. The Cross Island line is coming, cutting straight through the center of the island from Jurong to Changi, running directly under the nature reserves. Environmentalists were furious. The government says it's necessary, and when it opens in the 2030s, every MRT line Singapore has ever built will look small by comparison. Because this isn't just another train, it's 50 kilometers of track tunneling beneath McRitchie Reservoir and the central catchment, places Singaporeans thought were untouchable. The boring machines are already being ordered, and in 10 years, Singapore's MRT network won't just be bigger, it'll be completely unrecognizable,